Today I'm looking at something that I've had for quite some time, just sitting on a shelf, and I meant to do a video on it, and I just never got around to it. This is a Supermicro E300, which is a 1U case that can hold an ITX motherboard. And they have a few different models, they have different motherboards. Some of them have lots of Ethernet ports. This one in particular has a couple. It's more of what I would call a workstation motherboard, as you'll see. And the case is really nice. This is, in fact, possibly my favorite 1U case. It does come with a caveat, though, which is you need a giant power supply. This is a 120 watt 12 volt one, and it's not what came with it. I just happen to have it. But this does not have room for an internal normal 1U power supply like a Flex ATX one. But it has a great look. It's got this cool single grill on the front, lots of status indicators, power reset, pretty straightforward. Really well made, like most Supermicro things. Really the only kind of downside with this case and this kind of model in general, and basically any of these, is that the E300 is incredibly expensive. Most of these are on eBay for like $1,500 for a freaking 10-year-old motherboard in this case. I do not recommend spending $1,500 on this. If you can get one for cheap, which I did, I think I paid 50 or 70 bucks for this thing, plus another like 40 for the rack mount kit. If you can get this for a decent price, it is actually a really cool case, and I would recommend picking one up if you want to make a very specific type of build, a very low power, thin router build or something, and you don't mind all the crap that comes with a 1U case. Because this is just like any other 1U case. It has all the same weird oddities, like you can't put a full IO shield in it or anything like that. So it's, it's a 1U case. On the back, my particular model, again, this will vary depending on what motherboard you get with it. My particular model comes with a locking barrel jack, HDMI display port, dual, I think just gigabit Ethernet, couple USB ports, couple USB-C ports, DVI, and dual hardware serial ports, and some audio in and out. So again, it's kind of like a weird workstation board, but crammed into a 1U case. I don't know what the actual use case for this is. I don't know what they sold these as. If anyone happens to know why this particular model would exist, there are versions of this that come with a completely different motherboard. I believe it's a Xeon D, which is like an embedded kind of lower power Xeon, and they come with a 4-port Ethernet card, so they've got like 6 total or something like that. There are just 2 screws on the back, and this just slides to the back, and you can just remove the top panel. And then you have to remove a few more screws to get the drive carrier off. Once that's removed, you can just slide that back, and this will just unhook, and then you just got to watch out for the serial ATA connectors. This chassis can hold 2 2.5-inch drives. This one came with a 240 gig PM883, which is a Samsung, I forgot exactly which one, equivalent to probably like an 850 or something for the consumer model. It comes with an ITX motherboard, obviously. This is where the PCI Express card goes, so in theory, you might be able to hack in a power supply. I think you could easily fit a Pico PSU into here, and it even has the DC barrel jack to power it, but it is really designed to not have an internal power supply. There are 2 fans. You can actually add one more. It's just blanked out here. You can just install another 40mm fan. These fans are quiet when they're on PWM control and running slow. When they're on full tilt, they're very loud. You hear them kick on for a second briefly when it powers up. Because this board is directly powered by 12 volt, it has to generate its own 5 volt power and everything to power the hard drives or SSDs. So the SATA connector and the power connector come right from the board. So there really isn't much in this. It's really just the board and an incoming power cable and just the switches on the front. There is an optional cage part that has a riser and a bracket. It actually replaces this whole top piece right here with the actual proper bracket, because you can just like pop out this square and it has room for a half height card, but there's no like tab or anything to like properly mount it, which is really annoying because if you can't track down that part, you can't install a card. And the funny thing is the part itself doesn't even come with the PCI Express riser. You still need to find one of those. Luckily, those are pretty easy to find. Like you can just find 1U risers. The bracket itself is probably needed. You can probably just throw it in there and just get away with it, but pushing on a card without it properly secured might get it to unseat itself. I don't know. I haven't tried it, so I don't know how good that is. It may be doable. The only connections going to the motherboard are this big header of just all of the front panel LEDs and stuff. And then it looks like this is actually, I didn't even realize this is completely removable. Oh, nice. The loud Delta fans are completely removable. They're just on little rubber mounts, which is really nice. You can add another one, and for some reason they didn't make it just slightly wider. I don't know why they wouldn't just use that extra space and put in a fourth fan, but whatever. I guess it doesn't need it. If you're not using a PCI Express card, you might want to move this one over to here just so you can maximize the cooling on the motherboard. With everything disassembled, this is the CPU cooler, which is a Nidec UltraFlow. This thing makes a decent amount of noise at 100%, but it sounds more like just wind. It's not like a high-pitched whine. As far as 1U coolers go, it's not terrible. I'm not 100% sure if this is aluminum. It looks more like nickel-plated copper, but if it is copper, there's barely any in it. This is way lighter than like a modern cooler. And unfortunately, this won't fit on modern Intel chips. It's not a wider LGA 1700 or 1851 socket, so not very useful these days, but it'll work fine on this board, obviously. And I did confirm that the horrible wailing sound when these things are on, when they start up at 100% power, is from the little Delta fans. They are very loud. Like I said, they do slow down, and they're not too bad when they're at a normal PWM speed. 13,000 RPM at full power, by the way. This is the motherboard. It is a Supermicro X11 SCV-Q. This one has a 8th generation Intel 8500T in it. If you're not familiar, the T series are like low power versions of a regular chip. So it's an 8500 that's clocked a little lower. It's 6 cores, no hyper-threading, so it's just 6 cores, no 12 threads, just 6 threads. It's pretty standard for like a Supermicro board. It has a lot of jumpers to disable components on the board, so you can actually disable VGA and whatever on it. It uses SODIMMs. There are two 8 gig DDR4 2666 DIMMs in it. You can actually put in 64 gigs total. It may support more than that. I don't think so, because I don't think you can get bigger than 32 gig DDR4 sticks, so non-ECC. It does have the Q series chipset, which means it does support like the remote management thing, similar to IPMI or, you know, iDRAC, whatever the Dell version is and stuff like that. So it does let you remotely manage the computer to some degree. It's got a full 16x PCI Express slot, a single M.2, 5 SATA ports. I believe the orange one is for a DOM, like a powered module, basically an SSD directly to the SATA port. And that's about it. The only other thing of interest on it is that although it's not used, it does have an ATX power connector. So you can run this off a regular power supply. However, you can just plug in just the 12 volt and it will work off that. But if you're using the ATX, you do need to hook up the EPS power connector like you would a normal motherboard. You need to use both, but it can run off just the EPS. I still say the assortment of ports on this makes this a weird motherboard for a case like this, probably for like embedded systems or something like that. I just think more networking when I think a Supermicro 1U case, that's all. As for repurposing the case, you can install a regular motherboard into it. It will work just fine. You can take any kind of ITX board and it'll fit. The only caveat, as with all 1U cases, well, there's two. One, you can't use a IO shield, a full-size one. So if your motherboard has a built-in IO shield, you'll either have to remove it, which you usually can. There usually are screws that you can disconnect the built-in IO shield. And the standoffs are very low. they're always really low on 1U cases. Makes it difficult with a lot of boards because the back plate has a bit of height to it, so you often can't use a regular motherboard. In fact, in a previous attempt to use this in a 1U case, I actually sanded or filed all of these screws down. However, since this board does have an LGA 1151 cooler, 1155, whatever it is, because it has one of those coolers on it, it does have a little bit of height. I was able to put in a normal modern LGA 1851 motherboard in this, and it did work. The only catch with it was that the one board that I wanted had a rear M.2 slot, and that M.2 slot made it ever so slightly too tall. Now, since you're not using the I/O shield, it's not a huge deal if you have to raise the motherboard up a little bit or just not doing one of the screws all the way. However, the audio ports and everything on the back meant that you couldn't install this, which is a problem because although the computer will run just fine without it, you probably want some storage. You're really limited to just M.2. When you're limited to just on M.2 and an ITX board with no rear sockets, that can be difficult. You're probably going to be limited to just one M.2 drive, which, you know, if you're using this as a router, you may want 2 for reliability. As for the I/O shield, if you just remove 2 screws from the top, you can remove this entire I/O shield. Again, this is not a standard I/O shield height, so you won't be able to put in a regular one if you just pull this out, but you can put the board in without the I/O shield. As for motherboards, you're kind of limited because you don't want a consumer board with a really high set of I/O. So a lot of these NAS appliance boards are really low, so they fit just perfectly in here. This one has 12 SATA ports, which is not exactly what we need today. But I do have this board, which although has 6 SATA ports, has a bunch of Ethernet on it, which would work well as a router system. And it even has 2 top-facing M.2 slots. It's not super powerful. The J6413 CPU, which is, you know, like an older N100. This isn't a bad board. If you want a board that will have a lot more power in it, although still only pull about 30 watts, which isn't great. It's not horrible. This board has an AMD mobile chip. I think it's the 52 something or other. I'll put it on. I don't remember which one it is exactly. But this one can take 64 gigs of RAM. It has 8 cores, 16 threads, and they're beefier cores than like an N100, so it's decently powerful. It also has 2 NVMe slots. They're not full speed, but they're good enough. And you even get dual Ethernet on the back, plus a whole bunch of other ports. It's low enough. It's pretty good. The only problem with this thing is its low power isn't very good. It doesn't go down to like really low C states. If it's doing something, I guess it doesn't really matter, but it's not a very low power board. It is pretty quiet though. For reference, this AMD board that I showed is actually powered by 12 volt only. So if you get an 8-pin to 4-pin, because I don't think the 8-pin will connect here, so you need an adapter. But you can actually connect this. So it'll run off just 12 volts. You can run it off a 12 volt power adapter. You don't need a Pico PSU. And I actually prefer that because I found that running, it can actually run off the motherboard. Well, in this case, it might be okay. My issue with this was that, oh, by the way, this is the power connector, not this. This is power for the SATA ports. But the 12 volt connector on this, if you connect this and then power hard drives with it, it has a ton of coil whine, at least for spinning drives. I'm sure if you weren't using them or you were using SSDs, you wouldn't get the coil whine, but I found that I had to use Pico PSUs and power the drives from the Pico PSU to make it so you didn't have the coil whine. Just as a side note about these weird Chinese motherboards, yeah, if you run it completely off 12 volt internally, if you're running hard drives, which this doesn't hold, so it's not a big deal, but I'm just saying in general, you do need a power supply for this. I wouldn't run it off this because the coil whine is just ridiculous. Since I ended up going a different route for my router, no pun intended, I'm going to reassemble this completely, and I think I'm just going to resell this whole thing with the rack mount kit on eBay just as a complete unit with the SSD and everything rather than selling the motherboard, because like Supermicro motherboards usually sell for a decent amount on their own, but I'll just put it all together and just sell it as a complete unit since it's got the IO shield and everything. So I'm going to reassemble this, and then I will show you the very interesting rack kit. Annoyingly, I didn't actually have the right screws to attach the ears to the case. I guess this everything's included rack mount kit didn't actually have all the screws, but I did have some silver ones that fit just fine. And as you can see, it's a pretty standard rack ear setup where you just have some handles and you're good to go on a one-year rack. It included a pack of these, and I don't know why they look like they could be rack screws, but they're shaped weird, like they're pan heads. I don't know what these are for. They don't fit anywhere on this, so they may have just grabbed this pack of screws instead of the right pack of screws. That could be it. This random assortment of stuff is what makes this rack mount kit cool. And I don't mean the 2 included cable ties. Ooh. Once you take that bracket and attach it with 3 screws, you now have a place for your power supply. Now this isn't the power supply that came with this one, so it's way too big, it doesn't fit. I'll have to check to see if I have one that actually fits this little bracket. But it lets you slot in your power supply. You can just route the cable to here. You just plug in your power connector at the back, and there you go. And it even has this piece that can screw in one of 2 positions to just cradle the thing, so it's all attached. I really like that. I wish more things had that, although most one-use servers have built-in power supplies, so, you know, it's not super common to have this external power brick arrangement. But when you do have one, it is cool that they did this. Now, this thing seems to have like a little latch thing that kind of like clicks into the power supply. So I doubt whatever one I get will have that. It might just be a friction fit. It might just be designed to just push up against it. But yeah, I thought that was a cool design. I don't know if it's worth the $50. The rack mount ears are usually worth that because I don't usually trust printed rack ears. It's a really cool 1U case. I actually really like it. I think it looks awesome. It's airflow and everything is really well thought out, and just it's a great case. Just with the usual 1U caveats where you can't put in a tall motherboard and stuff on the bottom interferes with it. No IO shields, which isn't a big deal, but you also need to find room in here for a Pico PSU if you're not going to use a board that's powered by the 12 volt connector.